You went from $5 to $10 million, and the other thing that doubled was your anxiety. Why doesn't our confidence rise with our balances? We're going to talk about that today and how to tackle those fears. All right, grab your favorite mug. It's time for Coffee with Your Retirement Coach. Welcome back to Coffee with Your Retirement Coach. Hopefully you're filling your cup, and then these guys are going to help fill your cup here. Behind the clipboards with me today, Nick,
hey, what's up, buddy?
Randy, and I'm Aaron. We are going to talk about that horrible feeling of I hit my number. I'm a high net worth individual or couple or family, and we thought we would feel differently when we got here, and the confidence does not match where we thought we'd be. And this is something I think we've all experienced. Randy, recently you and I met with a client, and I went back years before because they've been with the firm much longer than I have, and I saw a reoccurring thing. They've done well. They're close to that 10 million mark, and they have the same concerns. They have the same anxieties today as they did years ago.
It's amazing. I don't know if sometimes it isn't I've got more to lose. I don't know if it is putting your confidence perhaps in the wrong thing, like you're a balance. I think there's an element to it that what happens is if you're growing your money, it typically doesn't just all of a sudden double. So it's a gradual thing. And so you don't really recognize that you're in a different spot economically. It still feels the same. And now maybe you've got more to lose, so there's more anxiety. And it's very strange sometimes to think about the fact that we'll have clients that don't have nearly that kind of asset pool to draw from. They're totally confident. There's some really interesting psychology that goes in developing wealth and money that has nothing to do with the balance.
They hit all the right crosshairs. Nick, what do you do for somebody that is living prudently but enjoying their life, and the numbers show this could go on in perpetuity the way that you're doing it, but they still feel that anxiety?
Yeah, something along the lines of this topic that I've shared with a lot of people is typically people in this situation, they're dealing with one of two things. It's either a lack of confidence or it's a lack of just feeling contentment. So is it contentment? Like I feel like I've got to continue to save, continue to grow the money. And, hitting that first $1 million is hard. Getting the next million a little easier, the next million a little easier, the next million a little easier. And before you know it, you just can't stop this trajectory. And now growing your money is not a bad thing, right? But the mindset is the concern, because a lot of people who don't find that contentment, they can't pause and go enjoy the wealth they've accumulated. For others, it's the lack of confidence and feeling like, you know what, now I am confident I have enough to live the life with the purpose, the passion, the calling that I have on my life to go do the things I've been called to do or I've been delaying to do. But typically it's one of those two things.
Well, I had something to it. First of all, I think it's putting your confidence in the wrong thing. I think anything can happen. And we look around the world today, we know that anything can happen. And sometimes we get in our little bubble and we don't realize what's going on around the world and imagine ourselves in those circumstances. The other thing I would say that people need to go back and recall the planning that we've done. So it's interesting that we're having this conversation because I was teaching a class that largely went on this subject. And I want you to get the idea behind this. So almost everybody has a savings plan. So you don't go from 5 million to 10 million without some kind of a savings plan. In other words, whether it's a goal or whatever, you've learned to live a certain way. And there's two parts to this I'd like to share with you. One is we have a spending plan. We have a savings plan. We don't have a spending plan. We don't have a spending plan. So we don't know how to put that together. Now, as a firm, we obviously do. We have great tools and techniques to do that. But here's the switch I think some people have to have about what that amount of money really means to them. So, in the age group that I came up with, people who are my age, we were told, get a good education, stay out of trouble, get a job with a big company, and stay there for life. And of course, a lot of things happened along the way. And I jokingly say the actuaries got with the accountants and figured out people are living too long. And also the competition, jobs going overseas. So companies got smart and they said, what we're going to do is we're going to move from a pension, and there's a reason I'm talking about this, and it's going to make sense in a second, from a pension to a defined contribution plan, from a defined benefit to a defined contribution. So here's what I've discovered. I've discovered if you have a $5,000 a month pension coming in, you don't worry about the pension.
Absolutely.
The check just keeps, I mean, there are some folks, but the check comes in. But if you really look behind the scenes into the vault in which that represents, it's based on a pool of assets. And those assets are basically a diversified portfolio. But you don't see that balance. You see the $5,000 a month check coming in.
Right.
So in this transition where we went from primarily defined benefit to defined contribution, here's what didn't occur where the confidence goes away. There was no money education. There's no education about how to design a portfolio to have confidence that those numbers would work.
Right.
An institution hires pension people, very institutionally driven people who have formulas and models to work in that direction, but individuals don't. So they have to trust in their own or their advisor, and sometimes they just don't get that. So yes, savings plan, but now we need a spending plan, and a good financial plan with income strategies can really help people if you can get them to realize that all of this money is basically their pension, all this pool of money, and tapping into it and living on it. So many of them have more than enough, but they don't have confidence in the plan. They don't have confidence in the enough.
Yeah, I think my challenge also with this whole paradigm is the folks that have really challenged because maybe their parents were Bob Hope generation, greatest generation. They went through the Great Depression. They have a real hard time with this idea of having that freedom to spend, and accumulation of the money almost becomes an idol in their life. Right, where they're so consumed by the graph paper and the spreadsheets and seeing those numbers tick up that they don't actually use it with its intent. And I think about the people that I've worked with here recently. I've got a gentleman I'm working with right now, terminal cancer, short time, in his 50s, accumulated well, but here's the challenge. There's broken relationships in his life. There's all kinds of other things going on, and he's got such short time that all this money he's accumulated, he's not actually going to see it be put to use. He doesn't have time to reestablish and mend those broken relationships. And the time is, 3 to 6 months.
Nick, I've got something that I've started teaching that I think is kind of a good idea to consider. And that is because of the whole psychology of this, sometimes we have to realize that spending your money is okay, that you're not breaking a law. You're not, you got that code of saving. Taking money out and creating that kind of pension idea is kind of going against the grain. It feels irresponsible for a lot of people. So what I've been teaching on this topic would be just experiment with it. I remember a long time ago when we were hiring people, one of the coaches we worked with, Nick, said, don't think of hiring somebody for $5,000 a month as $60,000 you're spending. You try it for 3 months. You're spending $15,000 and see if it doesn't improve your business and outcome. So what we can do is use that same philosophy. Let's pick some ideas and some things that you would like to do, and let's take the risk on using that money, whether it's giving it away to a charitable organization, a child, or spending on some luxury item that would feel so uncomfortable to you. But remember, it's a test, and really looking at that idea that your money serves a purpose, and the purpose is to support the things that you love and care about and have passion with and are called to. It's not its own idol. And what's the thing about money and love? And what is that?
The root of all evil, right? It's the love of money.
People misspeak that, right? They say money is the root of all evil.
It's the love of money.
So we've got to realize it can be an idol for some people. They'll never have confidence. There's so much psychology in that we'll never understand it. We don't study it. But I do think helping people have confidence that they're going to be okay within reasonable probability and using what would a prudent person do. And here's a great tool to try to understand this. And I think it's one of the most underutilized parts. If you had that money under your stewardship, so you have an uncle or an aunt or a family that you're responsible for, and there's a pool of money, say the 5 million or the 10 million you were talking about, and it's designed to support those people, and you were having to stand before a judge on an annual basis to determine what did you do with the money and how are you taking care of them, you would probably be so prudent and so logical. But it's not them, it's your money. And sometimes it's like people say, you know, sometimes the painter's home needs painting. So
that's a great exercise.
I think really we have to really consider where people are coming from.
So we want to take out the question marks. We want to remove the taboo. We want to sit down with that trusted professional and say, hey, what can this do? What is a prudent amount of income that can be produced from this?
Yeah.
Then the next thing is going to be, well, what's my happy? What is a quality of life? And how much does that cost? And what does it take to get there? I think what I heard in that next piece that is almost as important as the first piece is, what is the psychology of your actions? Yeah. Are you suffering with imposter syndrome? Do you have a disproportionate, an unrealistic fear of running out of assets?
Yes.
And then that's going to help you to tackle and come in, put the toe in the water, deal with it a bite at a time, a few months at a time.
Yeah.
These things can be adjusted. I think all of that is really great. I want to hit on one other thing real quick, and I want y'all to tell me if I've noticed this correctly, if your experience has been the same. Oftentimes, if it's an individual that doesn't have other people counting on them, this is less likely to be a conversation that I'm having with those clients. But if you have a spouse or someone else that is dependent upon you, especially if you've got an adult special needs child, this stuff can be off the charts. Yeah. So at any level and in those different circumstances, could you kind of walk us through, hey, this is how important communication is, and this is how important, again, and you hit the nail on the head, Randy, stepping outside and saying, okay, well, what if you weren't feeling like you were being graded on this and you were just advising to it? How might you take a different approach?
Yeah, I do think sometimes there are those major things, like you said, maybe a disabled child or a parent or somebody that you know needs support.
Yeah.
And you've not carved out what's that likely support. The big obstacle here is that people aren't taking the same prudence to plan around this because they don't have experience in it and it's new to them.
Right.
You know, I would say our typical millionaire plus client, it's a first generation thing. So they've never been there before. As a matter of fact, I often use the idea that they have the wealth that they've accumulated by doing certain things that were very smart. Good career, not making, bad mistakes with, going into debt and stuff. And so they've been really prudent in that particular area, but they really don't have experience in that. So the planning that they've done, the thinking that they have is thousandaire thinking.
Yeah.
But they're a millionaire. They don't have a millionaire mindset. They have a thousandaire mindset, and they can't get past that.
Well, and I want to come back to something, and I love that framing. When I think about something that we have stated in a lot of the classes and a lot of the big events that we've put on over and over and over again, this one phrase, I think it says so much. A knowledgeable client or an educated client is our best client. I think confidence comes from that education. It comes from that knowledge and understanding. In the New Testament, in the Bible, it talks more about money than any other topic. Yeah. I think God knew that money would be such an important part of our life, but we spend so little time to really understand this critical resource in our life. So what if we did take a little bit of time and we got a little bit of knowledge, we got a little bit of expertise behind us, we had a coach, a guide, some kind of trusted advisor that came along and said, hey, let's do this together. We're going to inform you. In informing you, we're empowering you to make really great decisions about your money. Yeah. So I think it comes back to knowledge and education, which oftentimes helps people or allows people to act more confidently if they grew their money, they doubled their money, what have you. But also on the flip side, you lost half your money. Would you be confident enough that you could continue to live the life that you love because you understood it?
Yeah. That's interesting. I remember an early mentor of mine I think I was talking to Devin about this the other day, and it was like the idea is you should become a millionaire not for the money, but for what you have to become to accumulate $1 million. But I think it's half the story. I really do. I think what we have to do is realize that if you have a lot, then you're held accountable to a lot. And I think that accountability of it is sometimes scary. I have clients that are extremely smart. I mean, they've done very well for themselves and all that. But the problem is that they need a second set of eyeballs on things.
Yeah.
And in reality, some of the most successful people, I mean, look at what Warren Buffett has done in grooming people and that along the way, and the credit he gives Charlie Munger for his success. And that's a great story if you've never heard it. But the idea would be, putting important people in your life. As a business owner, what I have discovered is that we all have our unique strengths. And if you stay in a spot where you do everything, you'll never grow. But if you will take advantage of the strengths you have and build a team around you, that supports those things, that's kind of what we need to do with our money. We need to realize that maybe I'm good at accumulating it, but I'm not good at spending it, or I'm not good at managing, or I don't know what to do now that I've got it.
Yeah.
And what's kind of funny, the difference between this, and I want you guys to think about your experiences. So you've got a client that's been saving and living below their means. They've done well. And like you said, Aaron, they've got from 5 million to 10 million. And, they're still, their confidence didn't go up and all that kind of stuff. And they don't spend money, and then they die. And then we deal with their relatives. Their relatives have no problems.
They're with a quickness.
They have more confidence. They have more confidence than they should be allowed.
Right.
5 kids, they all get $1 million. They think they're all worth 10 million and they spend it. Now that's obvious, but you know what? The stats are the stats.
Yeah.
The facts are the facts. Money rarely makes it. Real money never makes it to the 3rd generation. It makes like 97% of the time it isn't there. And one of the things I think I feel a stewardship to and working with my clients is helping them take that wealth that I call their farm and teach their kids to farm.
Yeah.
Teach their kids how to use the money. Well, if your confidence isn't there on your own and you've gone from 5 million to 10 million, it's going to be hard for you to teach your kids anything.
Oh, absolutely.
So I really think this is an important topic that I don't think a lot of people have really addressed properly.
Yeah. Well, and oftentimes we talk about that leaving of an inheritance should be as much about the wealth as it is about the wisdom. I mean, that's something that we talk about often. I think this is great. And again, I think we want to be very clear in the fact that we're not saying there's anything wrong with somebody that has $10 million in assets and somebody having $5 million in assets, living the same kind of life, wearing the same kind of wardrobes, spending the same amount on groceries and traveling the same, if the happy and the contentment is there.
Well, and I think what's really interesting about this, Aaron, kind of my thought for today is that most people, be it you've got the 2 commas, $1 million, you've got the 5 million, you've got $10 million. Most of them are battling the same battle. They might feel alone, but they're in the same battle. And, we think about the horizon, Aaron.
Oh,
Aaron, can you get to the horizon?
absolutely not.
But you can see it, right?
Oh, I can see it.
So we keep trying to move closer and closer and closer to that horizon.
Yeah.
We try to grow and grow and grow and accumulate and take ground.
Yeah.
But, we thought we would be satisfied. We thought we'd be fulfilled. We thought by just having a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and we accumulate and we feel frustrated because it didn't matter if we went to 1 million to 2 million or 2 million to 5 million.
Yeah.
We feel the same.
Yeah.
And if we don't concentrate on these other important elements of life, such as where do we put our trust and our faith, where do we put our confidence, where are we getting our knowledge and our understanding, can we find ourselves in a place of contentment, then we're going to be chasing a horizon that you'll never get to.
That's right.
I just want to say one thing. I've had this experience a couple of times this year, and I've got another meeting coming up with another client, and I'm really excited about it. And this is when I get to work with younger folks who have saved really well, and they let me into their window of their real concerns, their genuine self. And in our industry, that's a real blessing we get to have that kind of relationship with people. And for me to map out something with them that shows them with great confidence, they can retire at 59. They can retire at 62, maybe even younger.
Yeah.
And that they're not going to run out of money, and that we have a plan. And if they stay within the plan, their confidence in that plan, because it's based on, real numbers, real math, real history, that they can actually take that step that so many people can't, and that they can be done.
Yeah.
And the other one that I really love, if people will if they'll work with the right folks, if they'll really get the thinking down right, is to be in a position where you realize you've got confidence, whatever that number is for you, that it's enough, and then work is optional.
Yeah.
Like some of them want to keep working forever because they love what they do,
right?
But they know that anytime they wanted to, they can stop. And that's a completely different way to live your life.
100%.
Yep. So if you find yourself in that place where the money's piling up, but so is the anxiety and the insecurity, we want to encourage you to do a few things. One, get the taboo out of the way, remove the question marks, seek wise counsel, find out, what do I have? What can it do? Don't read an article that says, hey, you need $2 million to live in retirement comfortably. Don't do that. Find out for you. Acknowledge what makes you happy, you content, for you and your family. What does that look like? What are the guardrails for income production based on the assets that you have and you will have in retirement? And then if that nagging still exists, work through what is causing that. If it's an uber frugality that's not in a way that makes sense, tackle it. If there's overspending in a way that seems frivolous and carefree, tackle it. Find out the psychology behind the feelings that you're experiencing, because that tightness in the chest, that loss of sleep, it's ruining the work up towards and the enjoyment in your retirement. If you've got a personal experience that you would like to share with us and say, hey, what about this? I'd like for you to dig further in this. Share with us your anxieties, your nightmares. Do that. Email us at connect@yourretirementcoach.com. If this was helpful, we want to encourage you to share it with others, because the reality is what you're feeling is probably the same thing with your coworkers or the people that you retired alongside are feeling as well. So we want to encourage you to share this episode and live generously with your knowledge as much as with your wealth. Again, thanks for being here with the coaches and myself today. We want to encourage you not only to stay a listener, stay a learner, but stay coachable. We hope you enjoyed today's show, but you may have questions for our coaches, and they can be emailed at connect@yourretirementcoach.com. If you know someone that needs to hear this episode, we encourage you to share it. As a reminder, the content of this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and should not be construed as advice. On behalf of our coaches, we want to thank you for listening and for being coachable.
Yeoman's Consulting Group, a registered investment advisor YouTube channel based in Marietta, Georgia. We strive to provide comprehensive wealth management services for every stage of the journey. This platform is solely for informational purposes and is not offering advisory services or sales of securities. Investing involves risk and possible loss of principal capital. Comments by viewers or recognitions are no guarantee of future investment outcomes and do not ensure that a viewer will experience a higher level of performance or results. Public comments posted on this site are not selected, amended, deleted, or sorted in any way. If applicable, certain editing of personal, identifiable information and misinformation may be deleted. The opinions expressed herein are as of the date of publication and are subject to revision due to changes in the market or economic conditions and may not necessarily come to pass.